Hey everyone, Dave from Corso here, drinking my Holiday Inn Express coffee. On this episode of Sepasoft Solved, I am lucky to be joined with two incredibly smart people. Sitting to my left, we have John from Corso Systems and also Alex from Corso Systems. You may be sensing a theme. Today, we're going to talk about the Sepasoft module for the OEE, downtime tracking, and scheduling, and John is going to graciously walk us through some of the work that he has done and explain a little bit about that.
I think we should say, though, just to build anticipation, this could be the most dramatic episode of Sepasoft Solved yet. So stay tuned.
Dun dun dun.
Alex, would you like to tell everyone what OEE stands for?
Overall equipment effect. Basically, it boils down your throughput, your quality, and your availability into a single number that you can use as a baseline key performance indicator to show you how your plant's doing.
Exactly. So we have three key indicators which essentially equate to OEE. So we have availability, which is the amount of time that your machines spend running versus the amount of time for production. We have performance, which is your throughput, how many parts you've attempted to make versus your standard rate times the amount of time in production. And then we have quality, which is simply good parts over the amount of parts you tried to build. So if we take that availability metric, the performance metric, and the quality metric, we multiply all these three together, we get OEE, overall equipment effectiveness. So if we're looking at, say, this OEE window, we're looking at a production line 1 in our demo server. We're looking at just a portion of time, which is the current week, and we see that this particular client, they had an OEE goal. They had it at 65, which is these are all fake numbers, but ultimately anybody's going to set a goal for their OEE. They want to be able to hit this amount of efficiency within production. And then from here, we can actually compare, the current time range we have selected or anything along those lines, any of these different time buckets, if you will. We can compare those to that goal. And this is just a very high-level view of what OEE is. We can drill down into, say, availability, which is where we start getting into OEE downtime. And essentially, downtime within OEE is the amount of time you spend not running when you should be running. And for each different production line, you're going to have a lot of different kinds of downtime. Like, for instance, if an e-stop button was pressed, we want to be able to know why we weren't running for, in this case, a minute, which is not necessarily extremely relevant for a minute, but when it actually gets into real production, this happens to be pretty useful information, whether it's an e-stop button, the machine is faulted for any kind of reason, maybe the machine is starved from a machine a little bit upstream, and it's waiting on parts, or maybe the machine is blocked and the machine right next to it is full and that machine's faulted. We want to know that it's not an actual issue with this machine itself, but it's an issue somewhere else. So it just kind of gives you that visualization to know where your choke points are within production and know that these are the things that are holding you up, so you can spend resources on fixing those things and making your machines more efficient. Performance is going to tell us basically how fast the machine is running. Is the machine running at the designed standard rate that the OEM built the machine for, or are we running too slow? And if we're running too slow, we want to know why the machine's running too slow. So if we get cycle times on maybe individual stations, like we can see down here, we can start looking at these higher ones where it's not necessarily meeting that standard rate and slowing down the rest of the machine. That's kind of what a performance metric is going to give us. And then of course quality. Nobody wants a ton of bad parts. It costs a lot of money to throw away a lot of parts, and so ultimately we want to know how many good parts we have and how many bad parts we have, and if we do have bad parts, ultimately we want to know where those bad parts are coming from and try and get to that root cause and increase our quality overall. So focusing on these in a granular level, one at a time, they all essentially equate to OEE improvements.
Yeah. And when we talk about the OEE downtime tracking, and especially these screens like we're talking about, they very much go hand in hand.
Yes, absolutely. And then if we want to talk about scheduling, because ultimately, with OEE, we need to know what we need to be scheduling and what we need to actually build in manufacturing. And a lot of times that's going to come from an ERP system.
Yep.
So it's important for us to have the ability to pull information from an ERP system so that we know what we need to build. And these OEE modules, they allow us to do that. We can pull information easily either through API calls or through maybe a database connection. But I think they're coming out with some new things.
They are.
So we'll have to stay tuned for that. But so ultimately, with the OEE modules from Sepasoft, we have two good abilities with scheduling. We can actually just do complete scheduling all on our own, where we create our own work orders. We handle all the machine scheduling there, or we can integrate with an ERP system and we can pull all of that and essentially know where we need to build anything on what line. And so too, we can actually, once we do the production and build it, we can report back to the ERP and say, okay, these are the things that we have built, these are the materials that we've consumed, this is where we've stored it, so on and so forth to fit the needs.
And that can help you and your supply chain at various different levels. That is all part of the entirety of the MES Connected Enterprise solutions.
And generally, OEE is the first thing most companies get, because there is, I would say, the easiest ROI on an OEE system, because you're directly tracking what you're making and your efficiencies. So that's kind of the first place everybody would start, and then from there you grow into the other modules and layer those on top of OEE and build functionality that on top of OEE that makes everything else work more seamlessly. But you could generally start with OEE and get your ROI pretty quickly on that.
Yeah.
And that'll help figure out your bottlenecks and where you need to improve. If you need to go down the path of downtime or quality or however you need to improve from there.
And especially with some of the packages that Corso is putting together, but that is a different video for a different time. Dave and John and Alex from Corso, hopefully we have helped solve some of the Sepasoft's questions with OEE downtime tracking and scheduling. We'll catch you guys on the next video.
Like and subscribe.
Oh!
Where are you going to put it? This way? This way?
I don't know.
Right here.
Okay, I probably won't go there.
But I want it right here.
Good. We can look like the people that point up there and it goes down there.
I'm good with that.
No,
Those are my favorite.
Those are my favorite too.
Like and subscribe.
Boom.
West Coast. Best Coast.
Oh!
Operational equipment effectiveness.
Overall
equipment
effectiveness.
Should we try that again?
There are so many different ones.
There's a bunch of different ones.
There are.
But I think for at least the first year, I was under the impression it was overall equipment efficiency, which has the same
Basically the same
basic
thing.
concept, but I got that wrong. And I won't get that wrong anymore.
If you film it right the first time, you just don't have to edit. Just
Oh, no, you should edit.
Sure.
No. I mean, you literally need to say 90 seconds about each of them.
Okay.
Good?
As ever.
Awesome.